national elections. So this was written before Donald Trump arrived on the scene. It was before he won a national election, and it was before he lost a national election. So now we're in the midst of this discussion as a movement. What is our future? What is your identity? So just give us your candid assessment of kind of, where we are in the moment. Where are we headed? Where should we be headed? And what did Trump do well, and what did he not do well with regard to your thesis and your vision?
Yeah, well, first off, Donald Trump and I had actually a discussion about my book back in 2014. He reached out to me after hearing me on a radio program in New York back in the summer of 2014 after I published the book, and asked me to come by and see him. I didn't know it was about the book, but I walked into his office. He's sitting behind his desk, and he's holding up a copy of my book and saying, "I read your book." And I was walking in to shake his hand, and I said, "Yeah, you didn't read my book." And he said, "No, I read your book. It's a great book." And I said, yeah, the hell you read my book. And he was very adamant that he had read it. And we talked for about 10 minutes. I quizzed him on it. So whether he read it or whether he got someone to read it and give him cliff notes, I don't know which, but the bottom line is he was very, very passionate about it. And we spent the better part of an hour talking about how, the Republican Party had to be an alternative to where the Democrats are going. And we both saw the socialist march that we're now seeing from the progressives. And he said, someone's got to stand up for the folks that worked on my projects that, he said he related to very, very well, who were, construction workers and people who were left behind by Republicans who, in his mind, were involved with endless wars and were kowtowing to China and, allowing lots of unskilled workers coming in here, holding down wages. I mean, we had all those discussions, believe it or not, much of which were discussed in my book. And so, I thought, wow, I mean, this guy's a true believer. And I didn't think he was running for president, but he ended up running for president and frankly did a much better job than I did in communicating that message and having candidly the opportunity to directly talk to the American people. I think it's one of the things in the mainstream media now, kicks itself because when he was running in 2016, he was such a story and he was always, creating news from every rally he had by, saying something very controversial that, they couldn't help but cover him. So they covered him live. And so he had the opportunity to speak directly to the American public. They could hear him unfiltered by the national news media because they'd cover his events live, and he could talk about the things that I talked about in 2014, but no reporter ever covered. I had a program that was going to promote manufacturing, a whole section of the new section of a tax code that was going to be incentives to bring manufacturing back here to this country. He didn't do exactly what I suggested, but he talked about those things and directly communicated. And what Donald Trump and I, when we talked about it in 2014, both understood is that the Republican Party had changed. Now, not the Republican Party, but the people who vote for Republicans has changed. I always remind people back when I got elected in 1994, obviously 25 years ago, I got elected by losing the city of Philadelphia and then counteracting that by winning the suburban Philadelphia vote. And I try to hold my own in sort of blue collar miners, construction workers, things like that, not lose too badly and then pick it up in rural Pennsylvania. So that was the key. Well, now you lose the city of Philadelphia, you lose the suburbs by almost as much as you lose the city of Philadelphia, and you make it up in the blue collar areas all over Pennsylvania, in the Pittsburgh area and Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, and so all these folks who never voted for Republicans until the last. It wasn't Trump. I mean, it started happening well before Donald Trump. Trump just recognized it and then put the pedal to the metal. But the Republican voter had changed. That's why no one was excited about Mitt Romney or John McCain and why they had such trouble winning because, and frankly, why George Bush had trouble winning Pennsylvania, because he didn't connect with working people, and in a way that Donald Trump did, and that so many politicians in Pennsylvania did. We control both the state house and state senate by actually large margins, even though there are over 1 million more registered Democrats and Republicans. Why? Because we are a blue collar party in Pennsylvania, and we're very proud of it. We're very proud of our traditional values. We're very proud of being out there working to make sure that we have training programs for people who need skills. And I mean, it's a whole different ethic. And I don't, back in 2014, when I would go and speak to the RNC and try to lecture them about, the party has changed. You haven't. These are the people who are now willing to vote for us, but they don't, because we give them candidates that don't talk to them, don't seem to care about them. They recognized a long time ago that the Democratic Party has left them, that their agenda is this progressive agenda is a globalist agenda that is Marxist in its underpinnings, and that doesn't care about them or their values or their families. They don't care about the family. They don't care about marriage. They don't care about your religious liberty. They don't care about the things that most Americans, blue collar Americans, care about, and so they've abandoned them. They've abandoned, other than the public employees unions like the teachers unions, they've abandoned private sector unions. They look at what the Keystone Pipeline project did. I mean, again, those were all union jobs. They don't care. They don't care. They care about bigger agendas, progressive agendas. They don't care about people. And the dignity of the American worker. And we as Republicans have been in the same boat. I mean, I tell this story, and I'm sorry I'm giving this long answer, but this is sort of a passion of mine. But I tell this story that I spoke at the Republican convention in 2012. And I remember it was talking about businesses. That night was dedicated to, it was Tuesday night. And I sat back there, and right before I spoke, they trotted out one small business person after another. I mean, it was very impressive. They had men, they had women, they had people of color. It was quite an array. And they spent an hour plus talking about, how businesses create jobs, because you may recall Obama said, oh, you didn't create that job. Government did. And so they went out there and made that case. But you realize, John, through that entire hour or whatever it was that they had all these people come out, not one worker walked out on the stage with the employer, not one. And I remember sitting there saying, well, yeah, I mean, you did. I mean, obviously you're the business person, you invested, you risked, but you didn't do it alone. And why are we not talking to the people? You have one owner and you have dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of employees, and we're talking to the one. I mean, what kind of strategy is that if you want to get your message across? And so I went out and talked about, we have to talk about, that's really one of the things that inspired me to write the book. We have to talk about the people. I say this in one of my chapters: a rising tide lifts all boats, except if your boat has a hole in it, if you don't have the proper education, or if you have problems at home, or if you have addiction problems, and everybody has something. I mean, nobody gets through this world unscathed. And so everybody has something. Everybody has a hole in their boat somewhere. Some are able to overcome it, but others need more help. And we have to recognize that as a party and understand that America is great because we have a solid core, solid middle that has opportunity and can support their family and support their community and neighborhood and libraries, and schools, and other things that make the community work for them. And they're just as important as Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. And we shouldn't just worry about the entrepreneur. We should worry about the people who make America tick.
Yeah, and I remember 2012, I think that the defining postmortem stat was the caring gap. And you talk a lot about convincing people that you care about them is fun stuff. And I can't remember the exact number, but the number of people who said Barack Obama cares about people like me versus Mitt Romney was like 63-point gap or some huge discrepancy. And that's really, really hard to win elections.
Yeah, if I recall the stat, it was if your number one issue, remember they talk about what's your number one issue, the economy. Well, if your number one issue is he cares about people like me, my recollection was that Obama got 80% of those votes and Romney got less than 20. It, you know, one of the things I learned a long time ago from in politics is people don't care what you think, care what you know, until they know that you care. And that's true for blue collar workers. Frankly, it's true for people of color, that Republicans don't seem to make a concerted and consistent effort to try to show a connection with. I mean, we have a lot of warts, as far as I'm concerned, within the party that we've developed over time. And you know, Donald Trump went a long way in trying to in transforming the party. You know, I was gonna say he's a bull in a china closet. He's really a T-Rex in the china closet. I mean, he's a destructive force. But the Republican Party needed that creative destruction in transforming the party. It's just, you know, sort of like Moses not being able to get to the promised land. I mean, yeah, he got one election, but I think the creative destruction continued, and that's what probably cost him the election.
Yeah, and why? So I think you've laid out clearly why he did win, because he really took your game plan and he ran with it. And he had, you know, unique, you know, communication skills, opportunities.
Yeah, he did it, like I say, he did it far better than I did.
Celebrity
sure. Yeah.
So what was it? Why did he not win a second term? What is Rick Santorum's take on why he didn't win a second term?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, look, if you go through and look at what Donald Trump accomplished with the economy and with frankly with minorities, and how the economic lift. I mean, Tim Scott shared this the other night at his response to the president's address. The bottom quarter of income earners in America, you know, saw their incomes rise while the top earners in America didn't during the Trump administration. I mean, that's something that the Democrats say they want to do. And their idea is to tax the heck out of the people at the top and redistribute it to the people at the bottom. And what Trump said is, no, you have to create the proper incentives to make sure that we have a lift at the bottom. And part of that was his tax policy. Part of it, frankly, was his immigration policy. Part of it was his trade policy. I mean, if you look at all those things that he did, healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of things that Donald Trump did. He gets very little credit for, but he did a lot. And I think had that been the issue in the campaign, he'd have won. But the issue in the campaign was Donald Trump's persona. That's sorry about that. That's what the problem was. Is Donald Trump is a caustic figure that. Yes, does he inspire great loyalty and support among his supporters? Yes, he does. But he provides equal energy on the other side. And you know, you saw that. I know the census report just came out yesterday that this was the biggest turnout elections in the second largest in the history of our country as a percentage of turnout since 1992. I mean, that's an amazing stat. And I know that it certainly wasn't Joe Biden that was motivating people to come out, but people came out either for or against Trump. And unfortunately, more people came out who didn't like Donald Trump and were tired of the drama and tired of Donald Trump just dominating their lives every single day. It just became too much for people. And it's sad because he did a tremendous amount of good